Well, hello, and welcome to episode 197 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, you go through the list of like people's favorite holiday films, Christmas films, and you have like the old standards, right, from like the
Sure.
1940s, 1950s. You have like newer classics, stuff like Elf or National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I guess really isn't all that recent. But there's another one that seems to sprout up all the time. This time of year, I always see it like I go to my streaming service and it's like trending movies now for like the whole month of December, and it's the holiday. I've never seen it, but today we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it was 2017. I went home. When I say I went home, I went to my husband's home in England for Christmas. It was the first and only time I've been to England for Christmas, and we
Mm,
caught up with Anthony's oldest friend. Like I'm talking like from like 8 years old. They've been best friends, and
okay.
his beautiful wife Rebecca, who was like, "Oh, I was watching The Holiday," and as if I had seen it, as if I had loved it, as if I just knew what she was talking about. And I had no idea. And she chastised me within an inch of my
Wow.
life for not seeing this film because she was like, "It's so good. Why would you not have seen it?" And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I was when it came out, but apparently it's a huge deal. And because of her, Rebecca, if you're listening, I love you, and I watched it, and it's in honor of her that we picked it for this year's holiday because yeah, it's about that time. Everybody has apparently watched it but us, Brian.
Everyone watched it but us. But I rectified that last night as I watched it and took it in, and we're going to talk all about that. But before we do that, we're going to need a cocktail that is going to get us in the mood for the holidays here, Christmas and New Year's. But it's also going to help, if there's any heartache or love loss or new loves coming into your life, and it's going to be easy, which is key. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So, Brian, there have been a couple of films out there that kind of cover more than one holiday. Okay.
Mhm.
And when I say holiday, I mean actually like holidays. So we've covered Nightmare Before Christmas, which is kind of a combination of Halloween and Christmas time, which is kind of strange, maybe, but it
Speaking of
works. It works in the
movies you never
film.
saw, yeah, true.
Right, right. Speaking of movies I never saw, and maybe that's the key is that this covers kind of two holidays because we have Christmas and we have New Year's, and so in homage to that, I mean, there's a lot of alcohol that does happen and does take place in this movie that we could have probably taken a riff off of, but I wanted something that would be easy enough and uh, work well with both holidays, and we found the pomegranate sparkler.
We did. Yeah, the pomegranate sparkler. That is a really tasty treat. It is really simple. It looks beautiful. It looks like you spent like $1 million making this thing, but really didn't. It's just a couple of ingredients and you're good to go. Yeah, there are a fair bit of drinks in here. Yeah, I think she like in the very first scene, Iris like steals some lady's Manhattan or martini right out of her
Yep,
hand. Grab
sure
one.
does.
You're at an office party. There's probably plenty of those. You don't need to steal someone's, but I digress. I digress. Let's make a pomegranate sparkler. Michaela, it's easy. Grab yourself a champagne flute, fill it up with pomegranate juice, and then add as much or as little sparkling wine, cava, prosecco, champagne, whatever you want in there. Sip and enjoy. You can throw a couple of pomegranate arils in there if you want to look extra fancy, or maybe like a cranberry or two to float in there. That'd
Sure.
be good. That'd be good too. It would look lovely. Serve that to your guests when they're coming over last minute. For the
Yeah.
holidays, right? It's going to look like you have your life put together. You give them that, right? They're going to think you
Right.
you are all in tune, but really it was pretty simple. Just the two ingredients. It's going to be perfect. Perfect for Christmas parties, perfect for New Year's parties, which is, I think, more the holiday that this movie is really about, but we'll talk about that. And sip and enjoy. So, Michaela, what did you think about this? You love a little champagne treat.
I do love a little champagne treat. I think this is great because it's kind of a one size fits all. If you like it real sweet, you can add a bunch of it. If you like it not so sweet, you can add a little of it. Um, I think there's ways to dress this up and dress this down. You could use sugar crystals on the rim of your champagne flute glass. If you want to do like, you could do red and make it like super Christmassy. You could do white. If you wanted it to be a little bit more like party forward for like New Year's Eve, this is just super versatile. It's really, really tasty. And it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money. In fact, I really recommend that you don't use your best champagne for this because you're going to lose some of the notes of the champagne. It's going to get lost in the pomegranate. And that's by design. So just find something that you like and go to town. And Yeah, no, I love this drink. This is one of my favorites of all time.
Absolutely, and sparkling grape juice is going to go a long way. And the mocktail roots too. So if you got kids coming to your party, there you go. So go ahead and mix up a pomegranate sparkler or two. Grab those because we're going to need them because we are going to be spanning two stories consecutively, Michaela. Hopefully we can keep it straight. But the pomegranate sparkler is going to go a long way in helping us do that. So let's grab those. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, The Holiday.
Iris and Amanda are in exactly the same place,
Where do I want to go? By myself? Depressed at Christmas.
just 6,000 miles apart.
Home exchange. We switch houses, cars, everything. Bingo. I need you to answer this.
Are there any men in your town?
Perfect.
Spoiler warning for The Holiday. If you are like me or Brian and we're living under a rock and haven't seen this film, we're going to talk about all the things. It might get a little complicated because we're talking about like five different relationships and two different holidays and two different continents. But I assure you, we are going to talk about all the things, including how it ends. So if that's going to bother you, then you need to press pause on this sucker right now. You need to go watch that movie. It's really, really worth your time. And then get yourself a bottle of something bubbly, make yourself a pomegranate sparkler, and then come back and hear us chat about all the things The Holiday.
Absolutely. And if you haven't seen it, you've had plenty of opportunity because this one came out in 2006. It was directed by Nancy Myers and it stars Cameron Diaz as Amanda, the movie trailer producing mogul with a terrible ex, and Kate Winslet as Iris, the journalist that's in love with a guy, but hashtag is complicated. We've also got Jude Law and Jack Black along for the ride, but we'll talk a little bit more about them as we get into the movie. So, Michaela, you mentioned there are two storylines. There are a couple of characters, but primarily it is focusing here on our main characters of Iris, being played by Kate Winslet, and Amanda Woods, played by Cameron Diaz, and it kind of sets them up on, not exactly the same trajectory, but kind of similar trajectories. So let's do it this way, Michaela. Let's go ahead and talk about Iris. It kind of sets up her story first. We are in an office party, right? So we see her. There, Iris is sitting at her computer working. She's like wrapping up a present, and like the narration, like overhead, that Kate Winslet is doing for herself. I guess it's her internal monologue, is basically talking about unrequited love, which is the worst love of all the loves, and probably true.
It's probably true. And her whole thing, she's finishing this present. Her whole thing is how devastating it is, because you care about somebody, they probably care about you, but they don't love you the same way. And it's a wound that just doesn't seem to end. It festers and festers. And that's exactly what's happening to poor Iris. She is in love with Jasper Bloom. Hashtag, I'm well, newsflash. Anybody named Jasper, gonna break your heart, almost guarantee it. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially the one played by Rufus
Yeah, he's played
Sewell.
by Rufus Sewell, who's an actor I'm super high on. For
Yeah.
sure, loved him in Man in the High Castle. I'm currently been watching The Diplomat, which is that Netflix show with now I have to look it up, with starring Carrie Russell as her
Yeah.
husband in there. He's awesome. I'm real high
No,
on
he's
him right
amazing.
now, so I was excited to see him. But he always seems to have this way about him that is doesn't seem like a very trustworthy kind of
Just
guy. So come on,
yeah, he
Iris.
he
Come on,
plays not
Iris.
a nice
You can do
guy
better. You
real
can do
well. Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Have you seen Iris? Gosh. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Anyway, so Iris is this writer. She's the society columnist. They're having this big party. She spots him from across the room. He kind of gives her the cold shoulder, but then he shows up in her office as she's trying to finish her job, and he knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly what to say to just keep her like in the palm of his hand, knowing full well that he's been dating this other lady. I don't know what her name is, but she's on the 19th floor and she's in communications. We know that. And he keeps saying like, how are you so great? She thinks of this really beautiful, thoughtful gift, and he's like, oh yeah, thanks. It's it's really just awful because you just know that she is just going to get more and more hurt as this movie goes on. And it's only been 6 minutes into this film. Oh my gosh. And then who picks an office party to announce that you're getting engaged to somebody else at the office party when your ex-girlfriend that everybody knows about is at the same office party? This is horrible.
Not that you're getting engaged, you're already engaged. Yeah, we learned from the voiceover, right, that she's super into this guy and he comes in and it's kind of awkward because you could just tell like how into this guy Jasper, just how into Jasper she is, of course. And then it goes out, and they're doing the toast, and like her boss is like, "Hey, where's Iris? Oh, Iris, you need to report on this wedding. Oh, by the way, it's Jasper's wedding, so good luck there." Iris does a good job though of keeping her stuff together long enough to get home, and then has like an emotional breakdown, as of course you might do. So that is setting up Iris's story right there. Let's go ahead and talk about Amanda. On the other side of the globe in Los Angeles, California, we meet Amanda, who is played by Cameron Diaz. Right, she is there. She is with her boyfriend, who is sleeping on the couch. That's not great. He goes up and like knocks on her door and opens it up, and she immediately throws a shoe at him. And good for you, Amanda Woods, I say, because this guy apparently has cheated on you. She keeps calling him out for it, and he doesn't really confess to it. I really
Right.
like they like run downstairs, and he's like outside and like his boxers and t-shirts, and she asks him like point blank like one last time if he did, and he kind of looks over, and the gardener guy's like shaking his head no. He's like, don't say it, don't say it. But he does. He admits to it, which I guess is really the stand-up thing to do. That's true. But she's going to go back inside. We find out she's having some weird like heart palpitation kind of thing. I don't really understand what that was. I think it's just the level of stress she has from being a high profile business lady and dealing with these people. We learn a couple of things, right? She has trouble saying falling in love the traditional ways. She has trouble shedding a tear, can't cry. But Amanda now has ridded her life of this terrible ex, and she finds herself alone now to grieve in her own way.
Right. And neither one of these ladies likes to grieve, right? What I found what was really interesting watching this from a film critique perspective is how different and similar Iris and Amanda are. Iris, she waits till the privacy of her own home, but then she is sobbing. We can hear her through her cottage doors in her little English home. Amanda doesn't cry at all. She might, die of a heart attack, but she's not going to shed a tear over that loser. But she also can't just sit home and sit in her feelings. So she immediately says, I need a vacation. I love the scene. Oh my gosh. She's seeing her team, right? Because Amanda owns this film trailer company, and they put out this film trailer that's got like James Franco and oh my gosh, we just saw one of the movies with her.
Yeah, Lindsay Lohan. Yeah,
Lindsay
Lindsay
Lohan's in
Lohan
it.
and
And it's like in a
there we
world
go.
where, it's really funny. I love that scene because she's so upset. She's like, we should just all go on vacation for 2 weeks. And they look at her like she's announced she's got lobsters growing out of her ears. But she can't figure out where to go on vacation.
We
Like,
also in that trailer we get a very young Catherine Hahn and John Krasinski as well. They're working
yes.
working for her. So lots of star power in this one, or soon to be star power in this one.
Yeah, the timing of this scene is really great. She's like, I'm done. We're gonna go, and I'm going on vacation. And so then she's looking at like options to go on vacation. Now, Amanda Woods, she's an owner of a company in Los Angeles. Her house is ridiculously big. I don't think she is hurting for money, but what she decides to do is go on to some website. Now, this is 2006. And I know you probably remember this because we were alive in 2006. Google
Yeah,
and
we're old.
Yahoo didn't
Hmm.
work the same way as it does now. So she finds herself on a site where she sees this cottage and it's up for rent. And she's like, "Hey, I know it's right before Christmas, but are you interested in me? I'd love to rent your cottage." And lo and behold, she ends up talking to Iris on the other side of the world.
Yeah, that's where I thought that this was going to turn into a horror film, to be quite honest. But yeah, they're having a little bit of a web chat, right? Going back and forth. Apparently, there's this thing called like a house swap that you can do. You basically just trade houses and trade cars, and you just trade lives with someone basically for a couple of weeks, and that sounds pretty good, right? Because Amanda wants to get out of town. She's tired of all of this. She's tired of the Hollywood of it all. She wants to get out, clear her head. Get over this doofus ex-boyfriend of hers, and Iris wants to do the same, right? She wants to get out of town. Uh, she doesn't want to think about Jasper anymore. She wants to clear her head of all that stuff. So they agree to do that. It's gonna happen the next day, which seems real quick. I mean, I guess you can swap a house over some chat. You could probably get your plane tickets lined up pretty quick. But yeah, she's gonna get there and land. Big plot hole right here though, because it shows Amanda getting to the little cottage, just outside of London there, where Iris lives, and she gets there, and like the driver, her driver, like is like, oh, I can't go up there and turn around. But later in the film, he picks her up right in front of the house. But that's okay because you get a pretty funny scene there of Amanda walking through the snow in her very tall heels, which looks dangerous. So good job. She get an award for that.
Right.
Cameron Diaz. That's pretty good. But she eventually makes her way to this cottage, and she seems to be settling into it okay, right? Like you think it's going to be like a fish out of water kind of thing, but she never really like turns her nose up at the cottage too much, which I thought might have been the case when she actually got there, right? Like you picture something in your mind, but that wasn't the case. She kind of settled in and was like, "This isn't too bad. I like this. It's nice and quiet and peaceful here. That's good." And then on the other side of the world, you get Iris there, who steps up to this front gate and opens it up, and she's like, "Oh my God, this house could fit like 19 of my houses." And you
Right.
get a really great scene then of Iris like running around to all the rooms.
Right. I love it. She's in the movie room. She like jumps into the giant bed. She's like, this is how could this happen? This is so amazing. And it's so funny because Amanda doesn't seem to be like super pretentious, even though she's uh, obviously got tons of money. She wanted something really quaint and small.
Yeah, you get a really great scene of them like going to the houses because you'll see Iris like on the plane, like in the middle seat,
Right.
surrounded by like these two older ladies, and then it goes to Amanda, who's in like her first class like cabin, like laid out, sleeping, and watching like her like movie trailers coming onto the screen there.
Right, right. I mean, they're definitely not the same person, right? And they're dealing with things very differently. Like Amanda hasn't talked to, doesn't, we never see ex-boyfriend ever again, played by Ed Burns. We don't hear from him. It's like he's forgotten in all of time. But
Yeah.
Iris still gets an email from Jasper, the cad, and he's like, "Hey, I hear you're on vacation. I want to reach out. Where are you going to be?" And Iris has a little bit of gumption in this, and she, you know, doesn't give him the heave ho here, but she does say, "Hey, look, we both know that I'm in love with you. It'd be really gentlemanly of you if you just let me like fall out of love with you and leave me alone for a little bit. Like I really need some space." And I'm really proud of her for that. But you can tell she's still very kind of heart swept and
The harder
not
she tries to get out, the harder she
right.
gets pulled back in
Well,
by this
yeah,
guy. Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
So they're settling into their new lives. Michaela, I think that you probably like the movie for kind of the next scene that we get with Amanda the best because she goes to the local grocery shop there at the house. She's like throwing like all the best stuff into her cart. She's got like a couple of bottles of wine. She has an open bottle of wine that she's just like chugging on while she's walking through the grocery store there, which is really
Mm.
really fun. And she gets herself back to the house. Right, she's there. She's kind of settling in, trying to go to sleep, figuring out how like to heat the house and things like that, because that's all very different than your giant palace that you have back in LA. But next morning she's going to get a knock on the door. Who is that? She goes, or I guess that night, I guess she gets a knock on the door. And who is that? Who is that at the door? It is none other than Jude Law, who's playing Graham Simpkins, who is the brother of Iris Simpkins, right? So he goes over, not knowing anything about this house swap. Seems like something you might tell your brother that lives in town that's occasionally going to be dropping by on you. But he finds out, and we have a meeting of these two characters. On a quick side note, I watched Skeleton Crew, also starring Jude Law last night. So I saw 2006 Jude Law and 2024 Jude Law in the same day.
Ah, well, Graham did get a phone call that he ignored from Iris, probably telling him that she was going to be away. Because remember, this was very last minute.
He's a
There's
busy
some
guy,
plots
going to
holes, but
bars,
yeah, yeah. So
meeting
we
ladies,
see him in the beginning, right? At the very beginning of this montage, when Iris is just talking about love in general, we see him in bars and women looking at him and him chatting people up, and so we immediately think that Graham might be, kind of this ladies' man. And Amanda did ask. She said, "Are there any men in your vicinity? Are there single men? Is it a place to go meet people?" And Iris says, "Absolutely not." So that's one of the reasons why Amanda picked this. Is she needed to be away. She did not want to be distracted by jumping in with another guy. But I mean, this is Jude Law we're talking about here. So he shows up. He's drunk, not drunk enough. He's supposed to be like really, really drunk. I want to point out also, he's supposed to be so drunk that he can't drive. In England, that's like one drink. Okay, Miss Thing, who's
mm.
drinking a bottle of wine in the grocery store and then driving the mini home on the other side of the road. Plot
Yeah,
hole
don't
number
do that.
6. But
Don't do
but
that.
anyway, but they had this instant physical connection, 100%. Amanda takes the initiative and says, "Hey, I think we should do this. I think we should do the deed. We should do it right now because we're probably never going to see each other again." Graham's like, not going to turn that down. So they have what seems to be a perfectly wonderful consensual evening. My favorite part of this whole scene is the next morning when Amanda's trying to work the coffee pot. She has no idea what to do because it's like, I don't know, it's a Keurig or something. It's like,
it's not plugged in. Yeah, she doesn't have any idea.
So she's
what to do.
thinking it's because it's an English thing, and he's like, nope, you just plug it in. Even here, electricity works. It's pretty
Well, well, I thought that it just wasn't going to have the little switch switched on the plug, right? Like that's a thing in the UK, right? So
yes.
yeah, so they spend their night together, which is pretty great. Graham is like, you are the most interesting lady you know. Yeah, to you know. To have her just throwing herself at you, you just like stumbled into your sister's house. That's pretty good. Kind of weird on a side note there, but that's okay. That's okay. I digress. So she decides that this isn't for her, right? She wasn't really there like meet a dude. She's had a nice time in this house, but maybe this isn't really meant to be. So she's going to go ahead and head out of town. Meanwhile, back over in the United States, Iris is there, right? And she's doing some things. Obviously, she's gotten contacted by her chucklehead of like her ex like love of her life for sure, who keeps kind of inserting himself back into her story, which is gross. Come on, Jasper, get out of there. But she meets someone by the name of the neighbor. What's his name? His name is
Miles.
Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur.
Yeah,
Arthur.
she
Sorry.
meets Arthur, right? She's driving down the road and she sees this older gentleman. She's seen him a couple times, right? Like walking in front of the house with the walker and like a home health kind of aid sort of thing. And then she's driving like down the highway and she sees Arthur just standing there and she pulls up because Iris is the best and is like, "Can I help you find your way home?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know. Do you know where I live?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, I guess that makes two of us then." But they find their way back to his house, and Arthur's awesome, right? Because he is like an old soul of Hollywood, right? He has
Yeah.
been out there since like the golden era of movies, being a writer, a screenwriter. That's awesome, and they kind of share their love of writing and of movies and things like that. So we get this nice little kind of side story with Arthur there, which is really good, and that's what she's getting up to. Meanwhile, Amanda is getting up to learning a little bit more about Graham.
So they meet a couple of times. He invites her to this pub dinner that they're having, and apparently this little town only has like one pub. It's got one pub, one grocery store. It's very quaint that way, and so they hang out again. She gets very drunk. They don't consummate the relationship that night because she was very drunk, and Graham is actually turning out to be more and more of an upstanding guy, even though he continues to say, I have a tendency to really hurt people being myself, and I don't let people in. And she's like, I don't know. But they keep saying they're going to stop spending time together, and then they keep spending more time together. And she decides to wear this really beautiful, very Christmassy long skirt dress thing and show up at his house. I don't know how she gets his address. There's a hole there, but she like shows up at his house, and he's not alone. And we immediately are like, oh, you're Jasper's cousin, Graham, you horrible person. But turns out that he's actually looking after his two children because he has two very sweet little girls that he had with his wife before her untimely death 2 years before. And it's just about the saddest scene because she immediately is like, she being Amanda is immediately like, oh, you're divorced? And he says no, and he spells out widowed because he doesn't want his kids to know that they're talking about it. And it's actually really sweet and kind of sad. It's lovely.
Yeah, you hear the kids in the background, right? But you don't know. And of course, Amanda's like, "Oh, you're not alone," right? Thinking he's there with someone else, which would be fine, right? They hadn't, set any sort of rules for this, like 2 day old relationship that they had up until this point. But Amanda is great, right? She goes in, she hangs out, they have dinner there, which is really nice. The kids taking a liking to her, and she seems to have pretty good rapport with the kids straight off the bat, which is kind of surprising, I guess, for Amanda, who is this, career woman, right? Probably doesn't spend a lot of time with kids in the movie trailer editing business, but these girls take a liking to her, and she takes a liking to them. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. And then we also are introduced to another character, and not really introduced to the character because we actually meet him in the very, very first scene of the movie. We don't really meet him, but we do see him in the very, very opening scene of the movie, and that is Miles, played by Jack Black, who is a film composer who had been kind of like a coworker of Ethan, right? That cheating ex-boyfriend of Amanda's at the beginning of the film, and we're going to be reintroduced to him coming back into the story, right? He goes over to the house, expecting to find Amanda there because he has to pick up the laptop from Ethan, that knucklehead there, but he runs into Iris instead. So lo and behold, now Iris has caught the attention of someone else.
Ah, yeah. So it's interesting. I love this meeting between Miles and Iris for the first time because he is like really shocked that uh Amanda's not there and not working, right? But he's immediately like so funny and so like down to earth and so nice. And he's got his own really beautiful girlfriend who's making a movie. But Jack Black's character is like a very nice kind of juxtaposition from what we see in the character that is Jude Law, right? Jude Law is like this Clark Gable-y kind of really handsome, tall, beautiful, like suave person. Jack Black is still Jack Black in this film, in all the right ways, right? He's lovable, he's adorable, he's really funny. He's not so out there that it would put you off, but he like immediately like bonds in a much more like a friendly way with Iris.
Mhm.
And I really like that piece of it versus Graham and Amanda like jump into bed together. And so their connection is at first quite physical. It's very different with Miles and Iris.
That's true. Well, Miles is not single and ready to mingle like
That's
Amanda
true.
and Graham is,
Very
so
true.
that's true. He's got the girlfriend there, but that's not all going to be smooth sailing, right? Although Miles is spending a little bit more time with Iris, right? He ends up going and meeting kind of at some like dinner thing. They run into each other, and he stays there as Iris is having dinner with Arthur and some of his older colleagues there. They have dinner there together. Then they're at the video store together. But that's bad news when you're at the video store and your seemingly loving girlfriend walks by on the arm of some other guy, going to go out and confront him, and that's going to leave Miles a little bit heartbroken, a little bit shaken. With love, that's not great. As we're approaching to Christmas time for sure. Now, Arthur, for his part, as I mentioned, as a script writer, he's going to be recognized by I guess it's the Screenwriters Guild or something, akin to that here in terms of this story is kind of a lifetime achievement sort of thing. And Arthur says, I don't know if I can go to that. I'm not walking around all that good. And Iris is going to take it upon herself to make sure that Arthur gets his time to shine. And Miles is going to help aid in that, doing a little composing, a little theme there for Arthur. That's pretty nice. They're going to be spending some more and more time together as we build up to kind of that part of the story. But as I mentioned, Miles is heartbroken. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to run out of Iris to go have a conversation with his cheating girlfriend on the night of Arthur's big night. What's up with that, Miles? Come on, man.
Yeah, she calls him and he's like, I gotta go take care of this. I will be there. I just might be a little late. And that's tough. Iris is like, all right. But she ends up accepting that. One of the things that I find really interesting about this kind of relationship is, again, Miles is very funny. He's like the comedic relief. I love the video scene or the video store scene before we catch Miles's lying, cheating girlfriend, because like they're in LA, and so like Dustin Hoffman is appearing in the video rental store, like trying to rent something as they're like looking at old movies. He is this songwriter. He's got this really soft side to him, and he even tells Iris, he's like, I wrote a little something for you, and which is kind of sweet. I mean, it's very sweet, but it kind of makes you feel like maybe there's something more there. He definitely is deepening his friendship feelings for her, right? Meanwhile, Iris has not responded to Jasper's need for any sort of like dopamine that he kept getting from her, right? He sent her, he calls her at, halfway through this film and says, I don't want to mess you up, but like I have total writer's block. Can you please, can I send you some pages to look at? And she's like, sure. But she doesn't do it because she's having too much fun with Miles. And then she's hanging out with Arthur, trying to make sure that he is ready. And I love the video montage of that, right? She's helping him swim. She's helping him walk. They're doing all these things together.
Yeah. Arthur's helping her too, right? He's helping her see, kind of the value that she has, right? And he proposes a good question to Iris and asking her, whether, he thinks that Iris is a leading lady. And, Iris is like, oh, I've never been a leading lady, even in my own life. Maybe it's time to do that.
Yeah. No, I definitely think on Iris's side, there's a lot more emotional work that's done in like figuring out what she's doing, why she behaved the way she did, why she felt the need to like be at Jasper's coattails begging for affection. And because she's doing that work and Jasper's not getting what he wants, he kind of shows up. Like he literally shows up at the house, which I think is
Yeah.
really weird and stalkerish. Again, I don't know how he got her address and like she's at
Well,
first like, oh my gosh.
so at first I thought that too. I'm like, how did he have the address? But he knew because he'd sent the manuscript. So
Oh,
apparently she would
he
have told
sent
him.
it. Yeah.
But he shows up at the door, not at the gate. Now even Miles had to be buzzed in through the gate.
Right,
So
right.
how does he get in there? So
He
so
like
one plot
climbs the
hole,
gate.
it develops another one. But yeah, he totally shows up. What a
He,
gaslighter! I don't like this guy.
he
Come
totally
on,
shows
guy.
up and he doesn't, he's just like, I can't stop thinking about you. I want you back. Like I can't let you go. And at this point, I'm really scared. The first time I saw this in like 2018, it was early 2018. And I was like, oh man, if she gives in or if she kisses him, I'm going to be so mad because you can
Mm-hmm.
already see glimmers of her feelings of affection for Miles. I mean, they haven't kissed or anything because Miles is very, very, very neatly single. So they've not crossed that line in any way. But it's like, oh, girlfriend, don't fall for it. And she doesn't. Like you think she's going to, and then she's like, wait a minute, are you actually single, or did you just come here to like get with me because you felt me pulling away and you couldn't stand the thought of letting me actually go and live my best life because you need the dopamine rush? And he's like, well, I mean, I just, and it's so great. I love it because she's like, I have to turn on the lights to see you
Mm-hmm.
effectively. Like, cause she doesn't want to let herself like get sucked in. And so she's like, you
Mm.
need to leave right now. I love it so much. She kicks him out. She's got gumption. It's great.
She does, yeah. She does a very good job here, Kate Winslet, of making you think she's going to cave to this, and she doesn't. It's pretty great. It's a great moment of her standing up for himself. Although I do have to say, Jasper, fly in 12 hours. That's pretty ballsy move there, my friend. So that's how that's going to go. Miles basically has said, I don't know if I'm going to make it to Arthur's thing or not. I have to go talk to my girlfriend, find out where that stands. We're going to try my best to get there. So we go to Arthur's thing. There, of course, Iris is there, and he gets walked up. Arthur like walks up the stairs on his own, and that's pretty awesome. And everyone's standing to cheer for Arthur there. He tells a little story of, the classic Hollywood that he came in and grew up on. About that time, Miles comes in and, says that it's over between him and his girlfriend. He was happy to be there. And he asks, what are you going to be doing for New Year's Eve? Could we hang out? And, Iris is like, I'm going to be gone for New Year's Eve. I'm going to be, back in England. And, Miles, very smooth line. Miles be like, well, if I also were in England for New Year's Eve, would you want to go out with me? And sure enough, he would. And they have a little smooch. That's pretty good. And thus ends the LA part of our story. So let's go back and talk about Amanda and Graham here a little bit. They've had this very passionate, kind of 2 week ish sort of thing, right?
Mm.
That seemed to be pretty good. We've learned some stuff about each other there, obviously, and it seems like things are firing on all cylinders. But Amanda, she is a person with responsibilities, right? She owns like this production company. Like her life is in LA, right? She can't just say, pick up and move. She doesn't know how she feels. She hasn't, ever really had like an emotional connection with someone on any sort of level before. So, when push comes to shove, she's going to, be like, well, I got to go back. This was great. So we can either do a long distance thing, right? And that'll be fine for a couple of months until one day it's not and we hate each other, right? It's very sensible, Amanda, on that. Or she's like, or we could just, go ahead and, put a pin in this right now, say this was, the most amazing 2 weeks and go about our own way. And, of course, uh, Graham is, going to want more than that, but Amanda is pretty steadfast, resolute in wanting to do that. So when it comes time to leave to go to the airport, and you're in the car that couldn't drive to your house before but can now, she's going to get in there. She's going to break down, and she's going to shed her first tears since I guess she was a little kid, which is pretty tough to watch. Pretty heartwarming, I will say.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz, you know how to cry, girlfriend. It's actually really, really sweet. They're driving down the road. It's taken a little time. She's feeling the heart palpitations that she was feeling before.
On a side note, she had tried to cry before. Like she really wanted to cry
Right.
earlier to like I guess symbol to herself that there was some sort of deeper love connection and she couldn't do it. She couldn't bring herself to cry over it, right? So
That's right. But this the wells just springed from her eyes. And I love this scene because her eyes look super, super blue. And so the tears really glistening. It's a beautiful shot. I kudos to whoever made that storyboard because that was very effective. But she tells the driver, she's like, you got to stop. I got to go. I forgot something. And he's like, I'll turn around. And instead of saying, okay, because you're in a car and I'm
he was driving
a
too slow. She's like,
human.
step on it, guy. And he's
Yeah,
like, I
but
can't, it's slippery. And she's like, fine, I'll just get out and run. Which is funny,
right.
but yeah, I probably should have stayed in the car. I would have stayed
I
in the
mean,
car.
that's the only thing. There's like three different scenes of her running through like she runs through like
She
a
has to like
goat
stop and
farm or
catch her
something
breath. Well, it's all
to
the things
catch her
she
breath.
walked by, right? Yeah, it's all the stuff she walked by. And she
Right,
gets back
right.
there. The whole time she's running, I'm like, oh, she's going to get there and Graham's going to be gone because that's not Graham's house. That's his sister's house. I'm like, he's
It's
not
gonna
even
be
going to be there anymore. But he is.
um
He's there. He has just broken down. You can see the tears all over his face when she gets back in there to Graham. Lo and behold,
yeah.
here's
And
where
she just says,
Michaela
I
starts
don't know,
crying,
we're gonna
probably.
no, I'm crying way earlier in this
No.
film. Stop it. Do you know me at all? No, he's crying, he's a mess. She's there and she's like, let's figure it out. We're gonna make it work. I just realized I am leaving before New Year's, and that's stupid. I mean, come on. And so all's well that ends well there. So I love the next scene. Next scene is probably my favorite of like an ending in these like from a romantic comedy. It's one of my favorite endings of all time because we got great music playing. Everybody's in this space. You got the little girls coming down the stairs. Iris is there. They're all in this party attire. Iris is giving her nieces big hugs. Graham's there. Graham's looking at Amanda. Amanda and Miles are having a moment. Like, of course, Miles is making her laugh. Um, Iris has these really beautiful drinks. They're not the pomegranate sprinklers, but they could have been.
Could have been.
And they're all there together, like having a really fun New Year's Eve party.
Yeah.
So lovely.
The pomegranate sparkler would have been perfect because you could have done the mocktail route because of course Graham's daughters are there as well, and yeah, everyone is there. One big happy coming together at the end. So that is it. That is the holiday. There. So hopefully we kept that mostly straight for you with the dueling storylines going on side by side. So Michaela, as we mentioned, you didn't watch this for I don't know, roughly a decade or so after it came out. I hadn't watched it until very recently, but as I mentioned on the top, like anytime you look at like list of like top like holiday films or Christmas films, this is always up there. Like people really, really enjoy this movie. And after having watched that, I can certainly understand. This is a little bit more of like a straightforward, like romantic comedy kind of a thing than like a tried and true, I guess, technically like Christmas movie, maybe
Mm,
per
for
se,
sure. Yeah.
other than, the backdrop that it then which it's set against. But this one is pretty good. It's not like super like syrupy and sweet and all those things that you think of sometimes with a romantic comedy. There's a little bit more depth to this. There is a little bit of kind of darkness in the in the storylines for these characters, which is interesting. And then the acting here is all really well done across the board, I thought. So this was a fun one to watch.
This was a fun one to watch. I dare say that this film reminds me of what every Hallmark Christmas film is trying to achieve. This
Mm,
idea of love in this time, right?
okay.
And if you saw this in any other space, I think honestly, if it didn't have the amazing actors, I mean the direction and some of the shots are obviously really well done. I think if you had handed this in to maybe perhaps less talented people, we would have gotten something that would be very much like a Hallmark Christmas movie. Nothing to slate the Hallmark Christmas movies, but there is definitely a difference in the quality of filming, right?
Sure.
This is that higher caliber that like people would really want to see, and I think it's. I don't recall a romantic comedy set at Christmas time that's done as well as this. The next thinking
Well,
one is Love Actually, but Love Actually has become very problematic for like half of the story. So this has
well, it's
not.
it's funny that you mentioned Love Actually because more or less the whole time I was watching it, and even today, having sat on it for a day, this movie felt kind of like a response to Love Actually in a way, with the dueling storylines, and you have kind of
Mhm.
the America slash British kind of component to it. And Love Actually was very beloved. It had made a ton of money, and this felt kind of like, let's see if we could like recapture that magic there again. But certainly you mentioned the acting performances there, and I wouldn't say it's propped up, but of course you have Kate Winslet in here, who is absolutely incredible. She's this is taking place in 2006, which is bookmarked by Best Actress nominations for her in 2005 and 2007. So she is, very much at the top of her acting powers, as they were, of course, starting, way back with Sense and Sensibility in 1996. Holy cow. You have her, you have Jude Law, who is, a very much, kind of up and comer in that. Cameron Diaz, who was more of like this America's sweetheart type of a thing. So you had all of these components, and then even like as we mentioned, like the side characters, Rufus Sewell, we talked about him before. You even have like the bit parts there are, John Krasinski and Catherine Hahn, right? Coming in, and the established careers that they went on to have, kind of after this, still going on to this day. So there are a lot of really great components here. I thought that it looked great. I thought that the story was fun enough, and it was engaging. Um, Enough for watching like a romantic comedy. Now I mentioned kind of the backdrop, I guess, of Christmas. I really think this is more of a New Year's movie, to be quite
Mm-hmm.
honest, which is good because this is actually coming out the day after Christmas, which worked out well in the way that we ended up changing the schedule for this because obviously, kind of the culmination here is happening on this New Year's Eve party. And of course, Christmas is in the background. The movie starts at a Christmas party. But if you took the England portion out and just did the California portion, you wouldn't know it was Christmas at all, except for like one little tiny, like 10-second thing about having fettuccine on Christmas, right?
That's true. I mean, it actually is even, you could say that it's more of just a winter holiday film because they meet, Miles and Iris meet again for the second time at a Hanukkah party. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
all of Arthur's friends
That's true.
are
Yeah.
having this Hanukkah party, right? They've got the candles and they're going around talking about different things. I didn't really even notice that until watching it the second time. So I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is The Holiday. So let us know out there if you saw it back in 2006 when you should have seen it, or if you've seen it more recently, or maybe you're one of those people out there that watch The Holiday every year. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I am probably going to watch this from time to time to go back to it. So let us know out there if you decide to make yourself up a pomegranate sparkler when you're watching The Holiday. Let us know if it really is a Christmas movie or a Hanukkah movie or a New Year's movie, or maybe it's just all the movies for the whole month of December. Let us know that so you can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/drinkthemovies. If you want to see pictures of our pomegranate sparkler, get episode recaps, recipes for all 197 of these episodes that we've done, you can do that on our website, www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want to check in on the podcast, get some bonus content, including my last watch through of Michaela's Christmas movie recommendations, Biltmore Christmas. You can find that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. So Michaela, they've done all that. They've checked out the website. They've been to the Patreon to see what kind of bonus content we have. They have made themselves, I don't know, 10 or 12 pomegranate sparklers to get their way through the new year. Where can they subscribe to the podcast?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. Your little rectangle, your phone, if you're whatever you're listening onto right now, there is a subscribe button. I promise there is. If you're liking what you're getting, what you're hearing from us, we do 2 drops a week. You can't get that unless you press the subscribe button. If you're really loving it, we love that you love it. We would love any feedback that you have. But you can leave 5-star reviews. You can share us on all the social medias. We are so knocked out. This is the 4th Christmas that we've been able to talk about Christmas movies, Brian. It is crazy to me that we have been able to do this long, and it is only because of listeners like your good selves that we are able to do this. So help build the community. Those of us that love drinking, that love movies, that love drinking in the movies, all of those things. Yeah, it really helps us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be back next year with a little year-end recap episode for everyone as we make our way into 2025. So with that, Michaela, I think what we better do is we better go put on the holiday, get ready to sing and dance our way into the new year, and we'll be back to chat with everyone next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies.
Be the main character. Be the main character. Be the leading lady. For God's sakes. Arthur's the best.
Arthur's the best.